The Bionic Woman was a TV sensation that catapulted its cast into the spotlight. But fame doesn't shield against life's unexpected turns. Over the years, accidents and misfortunes spiraled their lives in directions no one could have predicted. Some battled through adversity, while others found unexpected new paths. As we step into 2025, where are they now? Have they reclaimed their former glory, or forged a different destiny? This story of resilience, transformation, and fate will keep you hooked till the very end. Richard Anderson, who portrayed Oscar Goldman in The Bionic Woman, was 50 years old when he took on the role of the high-ranking government official overseeing the bionic experiments. His portrayal of a firm yet compassionate figure made him a standout in the series. Despite the success of his career, Anderson's personal life faced many ups and downs. He was married twice, first to actress Beverly Horne, with whom he had a brief marriage that ended in divorce, and later to Carol Lee, a marriage that lasted many years but was often strained by his busy work schedule and time spent away from home. Anderson's second marriage ended before his passing, but he was close to his children, Michael and Dana, and spent his final years reflecting on his legacy. Though adored professionally, he battled loneliness and the fading glow of fame in his final decades. Financial investments kept him comfortable, but he often said he'd trade his wealth to relive a single day on set. He passed away peacefully in 2017 at the age of 91 due to natural causes. Anderson's estate was estimated to be valued at $2 million, much of which was donated to charity during his lifetime. Ford Rainey was 63 when he played the measured and kindly Dr. Harrison Wells, the physician entrusted with Jamie Summers' bionic care. A calming presence on screen, Rainey was known for his old-school charm. But behind the scenes, life was crueler. His marriage to novelist Eleanor Traeger collapsed after their only son, David, was institutionalized following a breakdown in 1975, a trauma Rainey never recovered from. His relationship with Eleanor remained bitter, culminating in a divorce marred by public accusations of neglect. After The Bionic Woman, Rainey's roles diminished, and he retreated into seclusion, living in a modest cabin in Santa Monica. Despite suffering 2 strokes in the early 2000s, he refused help and lived his final years in near solitude. He died on July 25, 2005, at the age of 96 from complications of pneumonia. At the time of his death, his estate, mostly consisting of royalties and savings, was estimated at $800,000. Jennifer Darling was just 29 when she won hearts as Peggy Callahan, the bright, loyal OSI secretary whose wit brought levity to the tense espionage environment. Off-screen, however, life dealt her a crueler hand. Married young to theater director Julian Ames, the relationship was filled with emotional volatility, ending in a painful divorce after their daughter, Bree, was diagnosed with a rare neurodegenerative disease. Darling tried to continue acting, but roles became sparse, and she eventually left the industry to care for Bree full-time. Tragically, Bree passed at 17, leaving Darling in a haze of grief that lasted for decades. Though she occasionally did voice work to support herself, she lived quietly in Northern California. Now 78, she lives alone, her home cluttered with memorabilia no one visits to see. She's often described by neighbors as kind but withdrawn. Her current estate is estimated at $400,000, sustained primarily through residuals and modest retirement funds. Lee Majors was 37 when he reprised his iconic role as Steve Austin in The Bionic Woman, portraying the original Bionic Man, stoic, strong, and endlessly resilient. In contrast, Majors' personal life was plagued by heartbreak. His high-profile marriage to Farrah Fawcett crumbled under the glare of public scrutiny and rumors of infidelity, leaving Majors emotionally wrecked. He remarried twice, both ending in bitterness and court battles over assets and custody of his 2 sons, Dane and Trevor. His post-Bionic career floundered in the 1990s, reduced to B-movies and cameo roles. Though admired by fans, he struggled with alcohol and financial missteps that drained much of his savings. Estranged from one son and battling arthritis, Majors today lives in a sprawling but lonely estate in Arizona. At 86, he rarely makes public appearances and has confessed to battling depression in private. His current estate is valued at approximately $1.2 million, a fraction of what he once earned during his prime. Christian Jutner, who was just 12 when he played Paul on The Bionic Woman, stood out as a promising young actor with a natural emotional depth. His role as the curious and empathetic Paul resonated with audiences, capturing the innocence and complexity of youth amidst sci-fi intrigue. Despite early success in the 1970s, his career faded by the early 80s, leaving him struggling to transition into adult roles. He married his high school sweetheart, Elena Morris, but the relationship was turbulent, marred by financial hardship and his growing dependency on prescription drugs. They had 2 children, Matthew and Rachel, but estrangement developed after the couple divorced in 2001. Jutner lived a reclusive life in Arizona, briefly working as a substitute teacher and voiceover artist, though he often expressed regret over missed opportunities and fading fame. He battled depression, legal troubles, and was hospitalized multiple times. A fire destroyed his small home in 2019, further compounding his decline. He passed away on November 29, 2024, at age 60 due to heart failure exacerbated by years of substance abuse. At the time of his death, he was largely forgotten by the industry he once touched, with an estimated estate of just $75,000. Robbie Rist, who played the energetic and tech-savvy Mike at age 12, became a favorite guest star on The Bionic Woman thanks to his quirky charm and natural comedic timing. Though he continued working in the entertainment industry for decades, primarily in voice acting and music, he never found the same level of fame again. Rist married 3 times, first to musician Claire DeSoto, then briefly to stuntwoman Jenny Park, and lastly to writer Eliza Moore. Each relationship ended in heartbreak, with long tours and erratic work schedules taking a toll. He has no children, though he remains in contact with a niece he helped raise. Despite maintaining a small fan base from cult roles, including voice work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, his later years were marked by financial instability and creative frustration. He suffered a nervous breakdown in 2012 and underwent therapy for chronic anxiety. Now 61, he lives modestly in Los Angeles, rarely attending public events and often reflecting on a career he describes as unfinished. His estimated estate stands at around $250,000, mostly from royalties and modest music sales. Diane Carey, who played Arlene Hart at age 20, brought an intensity and intelligence to her role that made her a memorable part of the Bionic Woman universe. Her character, Arlene, was an ambitious young agent caught between moral obligation and government secrecy. Though she found sporadic work in television afterward, she was often typecast, and major roles eluded her. She married actor Jason Ty in 1984, but the union dissolved amid infidelity and financial disputes. They had 1 daughter, Alicia, who distanced herself from both parents after years of conflict and instability. Diane struggled with depression throughout the 90s, exacerbated by a failed attempt to revive her career through independent film. Her father died tragically in a car accident in 1991, compounding her emotional distress. She spent several years living in Oregon, working as a drama coach and surviving a bout with breast cancer in 2007. Now 69, she lives alone in a modest home, occasionally appearing at conventions but largely retreating from the spotlight. Her estate is estimated at $400,000, and she has expressed regret that fame burned hot and then left me in the cold. Lindsay Wagner, 27 when she portrayed Jamie Summers, became a television icon as the first female bionic hero, graceful, strong, and morally centered. Her performance defined an era, yet behind the fame, her life was shadowed by personal loss and instability. She married 4 times, most famously to stunt coordinator Michael Brandon and later to director Henry King, with each marriage dissolving over jealousy and long separations. She had two sons, Dorian and Marcus, though both struggled with substance abuse and legal issues, leaving her heartbroken. Her own battle with chronic illness began in the 1990s, and her attempts to return to television were mostly met with disinterest from a changing industry. She became deeply involved in holistic therapy and spirituality, but some critics dismissed her later ventures as fringe. Wagner lost her home during the California wildfires in 2018 and never fully recovered emotionally. Now 76, she lives in a rented apartment near Sedona, Arizona, where she leads occasional wellness retreats. Her estate, once valued in the millions, has dwindled to an estimated $600,000, most of it tied up in legal fees and failed business ventures. Martin Brooks, who portrayed Dr. Rudy Wells in The Bionic Woman, was 45 when he assumed the role of the brilliant, empathetic scientist responsible for Jamie Summers' bionic enhancements. Brooks brought a human touch to science fiction, making Wells more than a tech genius. He was a moral anchor. Behind the camera, his life unraveled quietly. Never married, Brooks was deeply private and struggled with lifelong loneliness. A brief engagement in the 1970s to stage actress Valerie Rains ended when she abruptly left him for a European tour. He had no children and became estranged from his two siblings over an inheritance dispute in the 1980s. After The Bionic Woman, Brooks' career faded, with sparse guest roles and failed auditions leaving him disillusioned. He battled depression, especially after the death of his close friend Richard Anderson. By the time of his death in 2015 at age 90 from congestive heart failure, Brooks had retreated from public life, living modestly in a rent-controlled apartment in Studio City. His estate, largely diminished by medical expenses and a series of bad investments in the 1990s, was estimated at just $350,000, most of which was left to a local animal rescue foundation. Martha Scott, who played Ruth Austin in The Bionic Woman, was 62 when she stepped into the role of Jamie Summers' compassionate yet pragmatic mother figure. Her serene demeanor lent depth to an often chaotic sci-fi world. Off-screen, however, Scott's life bore the scars of long-hidden emotional wounds. Twice married, her first union to composer Mel Powell produced two sons, Jeremy and Michael, but ended bitterly in 1959 after Powell left her for a younger protege. Her second marriage to talent agent David Mount was tumultuous, marked by public spats and private alcoholism. They remained together until his death in 1986, but the relationship left Scott emotionally drained. Her relationship with her sons was distant, strained by her long absences and cold discipline. After the series, Scott found few roles, often passed over for younger actresses. She turned to community theater, but a 1994 stroke left her partially paralyzed. Isolated in her final years, she died in 2003 at 90 of natural causes. Her estate, mainly consisting of royalties and a modest Beverly Hills home, was valued at $1.1 million and left in trust to her grandchildren. Christopher Stone, 34 when he portrayed John in The Bionic Woman, brought rugged charm and emotional nuance to the role, which resonated with audiences. Off-screen, Stone's life took a darker turn. He married actress Dee Wallace in 1980, and though they had a daughter, Gabrielle, their marriage suffered under the pressures of career instability and financial strain. Stone, once viewed as a rising star, was repeatedly typecast and failed to break into leading roles. He turned to directing low-budget thrillers, none of which found critical or commercial success. By the early 90s, he was battling alcohol dependency and recurring depression, intensified by his estrangement from Wallace, who filed for separation in 1994. Their daughter later wrote candidly about the volatility in the home. Stone died suddenly of a heart attack in 1995 at age 53. His death shocked those close to him, especially as he had seemed poised for a television comeback. At the time of his death, his estate was modest, estimated at $400,000, largely composed of residuals and a life insurance policy which was left entirely to his daughter. Dawn Porter, who played the dignified Dr. Franklin in The Bionic Woman, was 60 when he took on the role of the principled and measured medical professional. A respected actor with a steady voice and commanding presence, Porter seemed the epitome of control on screen. Yet, his personal life was beset by turbulence. He married Broadway star Peggy Converse in 1944, and while the marriage survived nearly 5 decades, it was marred by frequent separations and infidelities on both sides. They had one son, Thomas, who struggled with drug addiction throughout the 1980s. The heartbreak of dealing with Thomas's repeated arrests and rehab stints wore heavily on Porter. After The Bionic Woman, his career steadily declined, with fewer offers and declining health. He suffered a series of strokes starting in 1992, leading to partial memory loss and confinement to a care facility. When he died in 1997 at 84 from complications related to pneumonia, he left behind a modest estate of $650,000, diminished due to medical costs and years without steady acting income. His final years were spent in quiet obscurity, surrounded by fading photographs of his more vibrant past. Abe Vigoda, who portrayed Charlie in The Bionic Woman at age 55, was already a familiar face due to his iconic role in The Godfather. In The Bionic Woman, his short but memorable appearance as the gruff but loyal Charlie showed his knack for lending gravity to even minor roles. Yet behind the scenes, Vigoda's life unraveled quietly. He endured a long, bitter marriage to Judith Levitt, marred by long separations and mutual resentment. They had one daughter, Carol, whom he loved deeply, though his relationship with her strained in later years due to his constant absences and emotional distance. After The Bionic Woman, roles became scarcer, and he was frequently misreported as dead, a recurring joke that masked his loneliness. He battled depression, heart complications, and declining finances, having lost most of his savings in a failed restaurant venture. He spent his final years in a modest care home, alienated from Hollywood and estranged from friends. Abe Vigoda died on January 26, 2016, at the age of 94, from natural causes. His estate was estimated at a modest $300,000, far from the fortune he once seemed destined for. Corinne Camacho, 35 when she played Kathy in The Bionic Woman, brought emotional complexity to the small but impactful role of Jamie Summers' friend and confidant. Her expressive eyes and subtle vulnerability resonated with fans, yet her off-screen life was riddled with sorrow. Corinne married television director Stephen Elkins, and while they shared 2 children, Liam and Sarah, the marriage crumbled amid mutual infidelity and prolonged legal battles over custody. After her brief rise in the late 70s, Camacho's career faltered, roles dried up, and she found herself typecast. She turned to stage work, but the emotional toll of rejection pushed her into a cycle of substance abuse and reclusive behavior. She attempted to restart her career in the 90s, only to be diagnosed with cancer, which went largely untreated due to financial instability. Estranged from both her children and her family, she died on September 15, 2010, at the age of 68, alone in a rented apartment in Burbank. Her estate was valued at roughly $120,000, mostly in royalties from past television appearances and residual checks. Hoyt Axton, 38 when he played Norm in The Bionic Woman, delivered a warm and commanding performance as a blue-collar bionic experiment subject gone wrong, an echo of his real-life complexity. Known more widely as a folk musician and songwriter, his brief television stint hinted at a deeper acting potential that never fully blossomed. Behind his affable exterior, Axton struggled with lifelong addiction issues, including a dependence on prescription painkillers following a back injury. His marriage to April Garcia, a former backup singer, was marked by volatility and long periods of separation. They had 3 sons, Jacob, Hunter, and Lowell, but Axton's erratic lifestyle and frequent tours left him a distant figure in their lives. A devastating stroke in the late 90s left him partially paralyzed and deeply in debt, having squandered much of his fortune on ill-advised music ventures and gambling. Isolated and bitter, Axton passed away on October 26, 1999, at the age of 61. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at under $200,000, with multiple lawsuits from creditors still unresolved. Who is your favorite character from The Bionic Woman? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.